Bài tiếp theo, chúng tôi xin mời tiến sĩ Phạm Thu Thủy đến từ tổ chức CIFOR. Chị Thủy sẽ cho chúng ta cái góc nhìn từ cái vấn đề từ những cái câu chuyện về REDD cộng, về chi trả dịch vụ môi trường rừng, về FLEGT mà hiện nay đang được phổ biến trong khu vực khá là nhiều. Vậy thì những cái góc nhìn đối với người dân thì những cái sáng kiến này có tác động thế nào? Xin mời chị Thủy.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and on behalf of my CIFOR team, we would like to share a research finding in the 17 countries on the impact and also potential risk of reducing emissions from deforestation and degradation, payment for environmental services, and also forest law enforcement government initiative. So my presentation this afternoon will cover three main parts. First of all, let's all of us together revisit the real expectation that everyone holds, that the three schemes that we just described will bring to the local communities. We also wanted to highlight several positive impact and also the risk that we have found in 17 countries that we are working since 2009. And also, despite the fact that everyone want to have a very concrete answers on whether or not this scheme might bring positive or just only risk, we wanted to highlight the cautions and also the need to focus on the grays, not just the black and white separation of the two elements. I wanted to also acknowledge for the last 9 years, CIFOR has been received financial support from a lot of donors, Norway, Germany, USAID, UK and Australia to sponsor our activities. And together the impact that we described above, this is actually the map that we carry out in 17 countries that I mentioned. We've had a good coverage from Latin America, Africa, and in Asia. And our study will be up until 2020. And also in order to provide evidence-based research on the impact of the three schemes, we conducted a rigorous research methodologies, collect the data before and after the scheme had been implemented. Also in the site where there is a presence of the scheme, and also in this area where there is an absence of the scheme, and measure the impact for the last 9 years. And our study covers in almost 6 countries with 33 initiatives, and we collect the data for more 4,000 households. And the study site that we actually carry out cover more than 50% of the total forest areas in the whole world that are actually receiving this initiative. So for the expectation of the three schemes, let's go back and see when the three scheme was established, what international dialogue and also what the government agency and also local communities are expecting in those schemes. With FLEGT, it is more about ensuring the timber will be produced in accordance to the laws in the countries, using the international market access as the main initiative. With the REDD policies, it's actually created the financial performance-based monitoring incentive to reduce deforestation and degradation. With the payment for environmental services, it is actually believed very cost-effective and conditional methodologies and also market-based instrument approach to actually provide financial incentive for people to better protect environmental services. And regarding to the topic of the impact for local communities, these three schemes are expected to improve human well-being, local livelihood, but also expect to improve ecosystem services that are actually critical to ensure the identities, safetyness, food security, water and sustainable livelihood for the communities around the world. But also this scheme was emerged due to the need and the hope also to enhance involvement and participation of the local communities in decision making. So let's come to the second part, where we actually wanted to share our research findings in 17 countries for the last 9 years to see what are the actual impact on the ground that we have seen with the three schemes. So first with the REDD+, we have seen in the 17 countries the introduction of the REDD+ in the policies arena in the 17 countries actually have to facilitate the REDD coordination and the inclusion of indigenous rights in forest decision making, particularly in the cases of Myanmar and in Indonesia, where before the initiative established, it's actually difficult to bring the topic into decision making. And this is one of the acknowledgements that the stakeholders in those countries that highlight to us. But also we also see, if you're comparing at the village level, the performance of local livelihood and also ecosystem improvement is actually better in the side that are the present of those three schemes compared to those that are not. We also see that over the activities that this initiative has been implemented in the 17 countries also have been able to engage more than 71% of the household in the local community that we surveyed. And 67% of those households interviewed reported the positive land use changes for the last 9 years. We also see that there was an average household income in all of the sites that we studied. And if you compare before and after, or in the side control intervention, you see a significant improvement. However, there are also some risks that it just not only focus on the positive impact. For example, the case study that actually showed the good performance is very limited. And as we mentioned earlier, we studied 22 initiatives around the world, but I think only 4 of them showing a good performance in terms of improved governance. There is no actual impact on the income, on well-being that is significant, by we mean more than about 30 to 40%. But there was also no evidence of the core benefits. So in many cases, the biodiversity impact or enhancement of the biodiversity is not well recognized. But also, if you're comparing to the local income coming from different sources, and the REDD Plus impact and also the contribution of REDD Plus to the household income is relatively small. All of the projects related to REDD Plus around the world put the annual security as one of their primary objectives. But for the last 9 years, when we carry out the study, there is very little advancement on the 10 newer securities in the 17 countries. We also see that in many cases, why the original objective of REDD Plus is to narrow the gap in terms of gender and also gender equity. But in fact, it has not been widely observed. We also see that with REDD Plus, despite of a lot of assumptions that the poorer household might suffer higher opportunity costs. But in our case studies, in more than 4,000 households where we surveyed, actually the poorest household face lower opportunity costs compared to the other group. And we also see that with the new initiatives such as REDD Plus, the social safeguards such as ethics and also a lot of recognition of about indigenous rights have been brought to the many legal framework. We also can see that there is an improvement on women participation in decision making, particularly in Africa. And if you interview more than 4,000 households for the last 9 years, most of the households perceived there was a significant increase in income and well-being gain. And that has a major impact that we have documented for the last 9 years. In terms of the opportunity cost, if you compare it to the carbon price that are now sold in the market, then what we've been able to offer is much lower than that. And it's actually creating a lot of risk when the local communities abolish other livelihood activities and mainly engaging on REDD Plus. We also document that despite there was a lot of chunks of money that has been dispersed to the countries, very small amount of those one has actually disseminated and distributed to the local people. And the question of who actually benefit from REDD Plus is still very controversial in those countries. And that was also one of the reasons that are putting the communities in high risk. If you're looking at the beneficiary mechanism under REDD Plus scheme, it tends to be very homogeneous, while the local livelihood is actually heterogeneous and changes over time. And therefore, what is offered by REDD might not be exactly what the local communities want. In terms of payment for environmental services, among the 30 countries we studied in 2009, we document a significant improvement in terms of income and reduce poverty in many countries such as Brazil, Cambodia, Vietnam, and South Africa. We also see a significant impact to have improved infrastructure development at the communities level, such as in the case of Vietnam. We also see the first improvement in terms of forest governance and the participation of multiple stakeholders in decision making, particularly in Indonesia and in Cambodia. And in many cases, it's also can gain additional income, actually without paying any significant efforts, such as in the case of Vietnam. But because there was a very limited or perhaps a very infant state of monitoring and evaluation system, you cannot actually document at the local levels and at the household level to what extent it has actually support local people to get out of poverty. In many cases, because natures and ecosystem services become decommercialized, and therefore is leading to the devalue of existing traditional practice. And in many cases, such as in the case of Vietnam and also many others in Africa that we study, the levels of payment are very low and cannot compensate for the opportunity cost. And we might think that the corruption at different government level might actually reduce the benefit that the communities obtain. But at our size level, we also can see there were significant elite captures and corruption at the community level that actually also dilute the impact of the scheme. With FLEGT, we focus our study mainly in Africa and Latin America because in the continent, most of the countries already signed the VPA agreement. And in those countries that already implement the FLEGT for a couple of years, we can actually document many new business opportunities for local producers who are mainly local communities. We can also see the empowerment with the financial benefit for the local people. We also document a better employment and working condition for the local communities that are now working on the timbers and wood processing company. But at the same time, we also document many case studies throughout those continents. There are actually many communities who are living in the remote areas are unable to meet the legal requirements, and therefore this process has excluded them in the market's opportunities. In many cases, in particularly Latin America, like in Brazil and Mexico and in Peru, where we're working with the FLEGT came in, and actually the local communities, particularly living around the Amazon's area, already lost the existing right to access to forest. There is a new form of corruption within the forestry sectors in Cameroon and in DRCs, but also in Ethiopia, where we're working with. Because with FLEGT, it created a new layer of regulation and a new form of corruption emerged. With the land tenure conflict, FLEGT can also intensify already existing conflict because the FLEGT also touches on a very core issue of who actually have the right to access to the land. And also, another impact that we have seen in those countries was actually communities are often in a very disadvantaged position because you can only either working for the large-scale company or either you can just only again to access to the domestic market. So as I said, if you're looking at both sides of the story, and then it's actually extremely difficult to see if it is a black or white story. And perhaps our culture is to look or to also to recognize the gray area and actually seeing what actually make in different countries leading to different outcomes. And whether or not it's black or white or actually gray, and what actually these three schemes can bring to the communities depending on numerous conditions. First of all, is actually how actually these schemes are plugged into the already existing policy mix. Because neither REDD, PES or FLEGT alone can actually bring benefit to the communities. It requires the whole condition surrounding, but also multiple policies in place that are either complement or actually hinder its success. For example, if the tenure securities is not in the right place, then whether or not REDD or PES, or despite their intention to support the local communities, you have not been able to resolve the first obstacle, which is tenure security. The second thing that we want to discuss is also it depends on the objective of this scheme. Because for example, in South Africa, where the main objective of payment for environmental services is on poverty reduction, the scheme is designed so that only the poor can benefit to the scheme. But in Brazil, if you want to talk about drivers of deforestation and degradation, and the local communities are not behind the driver, but it's actually the large-scale company. So the scheme, in order to achieve objective of reduce emission, it actually should focus on the large-scale company, not the local communities. But also, if you want to have a good impact at the community level, it's depending on the capacities of the communities, also the trust among communities members, and whether or not these communities are homogeneous in terms of ethnic group, but also in terms of their interests. As well, we also need to think about the institutional setting. that's what the government and local communities want to design in their PES scheme or REDD scheme or FLEGT in this context. And also, as well as the mixed policies in the forest governance, also the ability to complement and to combine and also to make a certain trade-off among these three schemes can also determine whether or not this scheme can bring any positive or negative impact to the local communities. If you're looking at the international literature, everyone talk about financial incentive when you talk about this scheme. What our research findings wanted to highlight is in fact the impact of the local communities and how they perceive about the success or failure of this scheme, depending not just only on the monetary income, but a lot about the social aspect, a lot about political economy, a lot about how they actually perceive about equity and what is fair for them and not the other. And in a little bit, my contributes to different literature review, but our case study for the last 9 years in 17 countries actually give a good evidence for our finding. So this is our brief introduction for our CIFOR research finding in 17 countries. And we have our the reference there if anyone wanted to discuss later. Thank you.